recently Stellantis announced a 4-week pause in the production of their Fiat 500e due to basically nobody buying it. In my opinion, largely because they're pricing this cheap, small, not overly great, small and practical car at an incredibly premium price in a competitive market, and it makes no sense. I never understood that. I remember first checking out the prices of the 500e. It blew me mind. It really did. So this decision really comes as a part of a broader challenge facing electric vehicle manufacturers in Europe. They're all really struggling. EV sales have slowed down quite a bit, driven by a reduction in government subsidies throughout the European Union, high production costs, and increased competition from the Chinese market, basically the Chinese manufacturers. And in fact, Stellantis has been struggling. They've seen a 24% drop in Fiat 500e sales this year. So with the majority of buyers still choosing petrol versions over the electric version. This pause in production will affect their plant in Turin in Italy, which is fortunately a place I can pronounce. That is foreign. Turin, I can do that one. But there's another one coming in for Hungary later. I can't pronounce that. It's an S and a Z, and I can't do that. So basically, it has already been struggling, this plant in Turin, Italy, with lower output. They've just been struggling to build the cars in a timely manner. Stellantis is looking to future-proof their company, announcing a €100 million investment into their Mirafiori plant. See what I mean? This will go toward developing a higher performance battery and hybrid version of the 500e, which I think both sound really, really good. A positive step in the right direction. I love that hybrids still have a place because they're emerging technology for so many people, and they just still do have a place. Electric cars clearly don't all have, especially the cheap ones, a range that pacifies all people. They just don't. However, 2.5, 300, 3,500 kilometer range in a small car like a Fiat 500e, that's okay for me, and for a lot of EV owners, we can make that work because we really like them. But it's not really convincing to someone who is used to, say, 500 or 600 kilometer range. So that's my thoughts on this. That's my 2 cents worth, or 2 pence worth, I should say. So basically, they're set to launch these two new models in 2025 or 2026, somewhere between there. And whether this will be enough to turn things around for Stellantis, I don't really know. No idea at all. They're a big company, Stellantis. They own lots of brands like Citroen and Peugeot, and they're a big company. If you haven't looked at them, I've just give it a Google. Honestly, it's interesting. They do have a clear vision. They really, really do. They know what they're doing. They've got some really nice things going on in some of their brands. Renault, for example, and I'm not a fan at all that they're still selling people cars with bugger all battery cooling on them. This is a bit of a gripe for me for all manufacturers and also organizations such as Stellantis. Basically, when it is really a basic requirement when you buy an electric car, it needs to have thermal management on it. We're in 2024. This was obviously a thing 10 years ago. We knew that you should have had it 10 years ago. If you bought a petrol car, you would want that car to come with a radiator to keep the engine from breaking. And if you bought a car in Italy, you'd expect it to have air conditioning. And so it's basically, when you buy an electric car, you expect the car to be able to cool the battery down when it starts cooking in the middle of Rome, for example, or Greece. I know you all agree because I think 90-something% of you agreed when I did a poll on this. Which is nice to know that I'm not crazy obsessed with this, because it's such an expensive part of an electric car, massively expensive part of the car is the battery, because it needs thermal management on it. So Stellantis isn't alone in facing these struggles. Volkswagen, which is Europe's largest car manufacturer, has seen a really big drop in market share and is even considering closing factories in, I think it's in Germany. For the first time in 87 years, closing multiple factories. The entire European EV market is facing really tough times because of the high costs and the shrinking subsidies, the consumer hesitancy, which you've just got to say it, a spoon is a spoon. It is there. And it's all basically around EVs and driving driving long distances, basically in quite a large area in the European Union. So this is driving sales down. It's coincidentally a time where the cost of living has been peaking, and multi-millionaires, multi-billionaires have been basically shafting the 720 million people in Europe, trying to have record profits, whilst we all foot that bill. Basically, it's very annoying. And they obviously use the pandemic as a sort of justification for it. Obviously, this is a bit of a scam, I think, a modern scandal. And these companies are still trying to sell us cars that are often too high of a price for what it is. Volkswagen are great at this. Fiat with the 500e also staggeringly expensive car for what it is. It should be maybe 2/3 the price, honestly. People don't have the money, it seems, these days, because I read this in the comments literally every day. Someone saying, I would love one, I'm in full-time work, but I can't have one. I have a mortgage to pay and all these other bills. It's really sad. It's really, really sad. People would love a cheap EV. The Fiat 500e, should have been, the electric version of the Fiat 500, which was a very cheap, very attainable little car. Nothing fancy. It just looks pretty spunky, but it's nothing great, really. It's a Fiat 500e, crikey. It should be cheap. It shouldn't be that sort of silly price. Just my opinion. Maybe I'm a bit obsessed with that. Let me know if you agree or not, but I think it's really overpriced. Awesome car, though. I really love it. So it pains me to say it. Meanwhile, China surging ahead. BYD set a record last month, selling over 373,000 vehicles, while basically Europe is grappling with market share losses and they're just struggling generally. Companies like BYD are poised to capture a really big slice of the European market, EV market, I should say, by 2030, if there are tariffs in place, because they're also starting to build their EV manufacturing plant in Hungary, in a town that I can't pronounce. It's like Szeged or something. It's in Hungary. And they're going to build that for the last year and a half or year and a bit. It's been, we already know, on a 300-hectare site outside of a motorway at that town, which is really awesome because it's a pretty good spot, I think, for a European market to build EVs and sell to the European market. Hopefully the European Union don't create another tariff or a blockade, basically. So it's obvious that the European Union, with their tariffs, just bought the European brands some time, but they can't really fend off the Chinese for too long because they, A, are making good cars, B, they're cheaper, C, there's a few things I could say for C, really. There are a couple of reasons, but I won't say them because I'm on YouTube. Ultimately, Stellantis and other European brands are in a tough position. While they're investing in the future, the next few years will be really critical in determining whether they can successfully compete in this sounds very cheesy, but evolving global EV market. Because it is evolving incredibly. In 2050, Chinese cars will absolutely be a large part of the cars on our roads in the European Union. They just will be. I'm Ben Alexander. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate your time. It's quite nice that so many people watch my videos. Feel free to subscribe for my latest take on the latest news from the EV world, from around the world, basically. Also, if you want an electric car charger, I was sent one by a company, and they basically, I'll put it on screen now for you. Just tell us in the comments an interesting story from when you were charging up an EV, and I'll send it to you, basically. I do know that it's 240 volts, and it currently has an Australian plug on it. So that's a thing. I can't change that. It may work on 120 volts. I don't know. You have to Google it. I'll put the link in the description below, and you can click on it. And if it works for you, then it's up to you to cut the plug off and refit the local plug from wherever you are. But pretty cool charger anyway. Really nice. Yeah, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video tomorrow.